started, I'd like to welcome all of you and good morning. Great to see some familiar faces and some new faces today. I'm Laura Jaramillo, I'm the city manager, and we have
I'm Kate Fletcher, I'm from the county.
And I invited our Chief of Police, Steve Chavez, to give us a little report today for something different to hear about. So typically, Kate and I take turns giving a little bit of what activities and initiatives are going on in our government entities. During that time, you're welcome to comment, to ask questions throughout. And then towards the end, if you have a new topic that you would like to bring up and have us consider, or a great idea that you think should be implemented. So Kate is going to go first this morning.
And I apologize now. I actually have another meeting at 9:15, so that is why I'm going first. So I apologize. I did not. My schedule and my angel is on vacation. So like I say, I fail in my schedule, and here I go. So I have to be another place at 9:15. So I apologize. I'm going to go real quick, if that's okay. We've got the budget has been approved. We've done a hospital workshop for history and facts. It was very informative. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. We have a road viewing committee. So the next meeting at the commission, I'm hoping the commission will approve the recommendations from that committee to either vacate or add roads. And this is the beginning of a long process. We'll be doing this throughout the year, probably all the time. Every year will be something. We need to keep up on that. So this Coffee with Managers, sometimes I feel like we repeat and we're boring, and it's a continuous of all kinds of things. So I thought I'd kind of push it up a bit. So I'm going to send this over to everybody. And I'm going to talk about how facts can really affect a county and people.
Thank you.
So let me start with, I get this phone call from the prison saying, hey, look at this website. And so I did. And I was like, that's so untrue. You know, how did they get those facts without them being true? So I started looking at it, and I was really lucky because it was Thursday afternoon, and it was before the commission meeting. So I thought, I need to do this. I need to act. Oh, actually, I need that one. It's all right. So let's just go through it so you can see how it affects everybody. And then I'm going to start off with a letter that I wrote with this to the newspaper. So the newspaper was Santa Fe, New Mexico. And they were doing a reporting on prisons, detention centers, and inmates. And we'll go through this, but this is the letter that I sent to them after I had processed everything and to make sure the facts were correct. I said, thank you for reaching out and taking the time to speak with me concerning the facts. As discussed over the phone, Wendy will be sending you the contract you had asked for and our software revenue expense flow fund. I need my glasses. I'm getting old. With that, you can see what the county received in administrative fees. Attached as part of the presentation regarding the incorrect reporting. Please understand, as I am sure you do, incorrect information can be extremely harmful to communities. My priority as a county manager is to give the Board of Commission factual information so they can make good decisions. This piece of reporting does not help. I'm confident that you can assist me with reporting the truth. I look forward to hearing from you. And so after that, Thursday afternoon, they were going to wanted to do the report that evening for the next day, but because we kind of shut it down and we just basically piled them with facts. We showed them how much it's costing, why we're doing this, why we had to make the decisions. And so they kind of went, uh-oh, we need more time. So for a whole week, we've been working with them, and supposedly they're going to do a rebuttal story on the facts that they did not really look into on Sunday. So here we go. So this is what I kind of gave at the commission meeting. And if you look on the second page where it says wrong, this is what was stated in the newspaper. And they have numbers. They have a $2 million expenses not reimbursed by ICE. ICE is its own entity. We we don't have any control in ICE, in the detention center. Detention center, we do not own. CoreCivic owns and runs. We have a contract with CoreCivic, not with ICE. We have a contract with ICE because we're a government entity. We are a flow-through for them because we are in this county, and the prison is in that county. So when they say it's contracted, county contracts ICE, we literally it goes in, we do a journal entry, and it goes right out. Just like mill levy percentages that go to different areas, it's a trust and agency fund, and government can do that. And with that, we get 50 cents for each inmate from ICE. So that's our administrative fee. So with 1 year, we made about 60,000, and it goes right back into taking care of our inmates.
Is that 50 cents per day?
Yes. So that's how that's how our contract states and stands. So with the 2.7, so we don't, basically, ICE does not reimburse us. It goes through, and then we actually keep the 550 cents, and it goes right back to CoreCivic. It's a flow-through, we're a government agency, so we're allowed to do that, and it helps a lot of people. So the 2.75 million, that is our budgeted expenses last year. That's what we spent in detention center taking care of inmates. When we had a detention center, it was up to 4.5, maybe higher sometimes every year. So we have gone down in how much it's costing. And this money does go to CoreCivic because we have to pay every night for every inmate. And what it sounds like in talking to these newspapers was they don't understand the difference between government and private entities. Private entities have a mind frame that you need to make some money, you need to make a revenue, you need to make a profit to keep going. In county, that is not our goal. Our goal is to utilize the money the best way we know how, but also stick with statutes. And I'm sure you two are aware, statutes come into place all the time, and it's frustrating, but we have to follow them. So when we explained to this person, and she was actually very nice and very humble at the end, but she didn't quite get that. She didn't understand. Well, why aren't you making any money? Well, we're not making money because by law we have to take care of our inmates. As soon as a deputy arrests somebody, we're basically taking care of them. We have to make those decisions for them, and it's we could talk all day, couldn't we, Chief, about this? I mean, it's very frustrating. We have to, by law, give them medical care, mental health. We have to give them dentistry. You know, we have to give all of that while they are an inmate. And that's why it's costing. That's why the county had to make that decision to shut down the detention. Because quite honestly, we're not good at running a detention. A private facility is much better because they have all these resources and tools to get it done. So that's less liability. And if you go into the prison, I was in awe. The way it's managed, it's amazing. And they do a very good job. It's not like there's always mistakes and there's always issues that come up, but I feel very confident that they do take care of the inmates when they're there. And so with this little flyer, I'm not going to read it all out, but then the second page was when it says correct. We showed them the revenue of 60,000. So when we budget for this year, and we know we spent 275,000 on inmates, we're probably going to budget that. Maybe 300, I think we budgeted this year, because we're hoping that's kind of the average. We average 125 inmates a night in there, in detention. So that's an average throughout the year. But I just thought this was kind of an interesting thing of how it does affect us. It affects the deputies, it affects the police. False information is very dangerous. And I was so glad that I had the opportunity to shut it down very, very fast and give out the facts. So I think it's important that is one of our jobs as county, is make sure that we do give the information out. So everything is public record, guys, everything. So if you need something or you want something, we have a custodian who is way over there, Natalie, And she is actually the custodian of IPRA. And every county has to have a custodian. So every information for public requests goes through Miss Natalie. And there's actually a statute of how we have to do this. It's not like, oh, that's Mary Jane, I'll just give that to her now. Unfortunately, we have to stick with the rules. So when we get an IPRA, whether it's a reporting on something or factual information for, I don't know, let me see, how much land there is in San Rafael that the county owns. It has to go through Natalie, and Natalie has 3 days to respond. Doesn't mean 3 days to give the information, but she has to respond acknowledging that we have received as a county this request. We then have up to 15 days to compile the information within our software or our departments, whatever it's interested in, and we give it back to Natalie, and Natalie then sends it off. But on the letter, there's a lot of ways that you can come and ask for information. You can come in and have a room with the information if you don't want to pay for the copies. If we have it on electronic, we can actually give it to them in a disc. So there's all different ways to do this, and this is becoming a huge unfunded mandate that counties are having. People have found out that counties have held a lot of information throughout the years. We have information, we have recordings, we have land assessments, but now they're understanding that they can actually utilize that with the IPRA, and it's a statute, and so everything is public. So when we give all this information out, we want the information out, because this is public, this is how government runs, right? So
The city has a contract with the county for inmates that were arrested within the city limits. And so the county by law is supposed to provide the detention care. So we contract with them now that they don't have their own facility, and then they pay for our inmates as well.
well, no.
Well, we pay for it, but you pass it on to
We pay
the
for it first,
contractor.
and then we bill the county, the
Right.
city. So because we're the ones that have the contract
Right.
with CoreCivic, so that's an internal, yes.
Do we not make money on any of our
No.
prisons?
Absolutely not.
So it's just that they employ people, and that's why we want them here, is other prisons.
I don't think it's a want them here. I don't think we all sort of said, oh, we want them, but I think it's a need. We have,
I'm afraid that rural communities generally want prisons because they have very little employment in a lot of cases, employment opportunities.
That could be. I know I was amazed at how many people our prisons do employ. A lot of them used to do trainings at the family center, and they would bring a group, and then a couple of months later another group, and I didn't realize how many people they do employ. So in that respect, it is very good. And I know there's a big misconception out there that the prison population, then their family moves here, and it creates not a good public for our community, and that is not true. Several years ago, I did a survey while I worked at the family center, and we surveyed every prisoner at our 3 local prisons, and only about 4 of them had family here. And they were people who their family, I think one of them had said their family moved here because they were here, but all the rest, their family already lived here. So I hear people all the time say, well, then, Grants is a prison town, and the families are moving here, and we're just getting more crime because of that. But for those of us who've lived here a long time, you will realize that the people's names you see in the paper grew up here. They're not typically new to our community. We've watched them, as an educator, I watched them through the years go through our system, so.
Does it help the hotel motel?
The hotel motel, how would it
Yeah.
help that?
Well, people come in to visit.
Maybe, I don't know.
that's a revenue, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a GRT. Yeah, GRT.
Yeah, could be.
Because you guys have big motels here for as little as a town.
Yeah, I've never heard the hotel owners say if they're getting, if they know people are families
And that's a
coming in.
perfect example about private entities wanting to make a net profit to government. Government is not totally opposite, and it is frustrating because we're not here to make money. We're here to make sure we can do what we can do for all our people. And so the commissioners have those decisions to make, to utilize the money the best way they know how. So was it a good idea that detention was closed? Did it upset a lot of people at that point? I'm sure, because they lost jobs. And a lot of them actually went to CoreCivic. But for the actual expenses of a county, the difference between 4.5 and up to 275 to 3, it's huge, right? So, and they do it better. The liability has gone down. Our insurance is going to go down next year because tort claims we still could get a tort claim from our detention center if someone felt that they needed to. So we're still kind of holding on. We still have to pay for the insurance. But once that is through, I'm confident that we won't have to pay all that liability. And you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for liability insurance. So it's just one of those things that we're trying to, shut down and spend wisely, like we're trying to consolidate, same thing. So I don't want to take too much, so I want to add a little bit more. So we had a workshop. When did we have a workshop, Commissioner?
Third week in August.
Third week in August. And we did it in a very interesting way, and I'm glad. Thank you for turning up. I saw you, didn't I? Yeah. So we put everybody together in the chambers on the same level. So we had the commissioners with the hospital board members and public all in one, and us. And we brought our legal team in. And what we wanted to do was give the information that we have learned throughout, what I've learned throughout the year, and the hospital gave information of what the history has been with the hospital and how important the hospital is to the whole county, and how we're trying to address what we have to address, but figure out how we're going to do this, working together we need a strong hospital. We don't want a hospital to disappear. We need it. So we have to work together to figure out laws, opinions. We have a lot of opinions out there. It's very frustrating. It's not one of these things that, if the auditor says something, unfortunately, we need to abide by that. And if legal says something too, there's all these pieces that we have to make sure that we don't, that we make sure that we adhere to. So this was a really, Commissioner, would you like to say something? Because you were there and...
Well, it's just a step-by-step process, and you have to make sure all the pieces are there, as you said. It's somewhat of a jigsaw puzzle legally, and so we have to find history, we have to find documentation for different things, and that's what is taking so much time, because the hospital has pieces, we have pieces, and there's not a real clear understanding of
what has happened,
who owns what and who's obligated for what, because this goes back to the days when government was done with a wink and a nod and a handshake, and that really messes things up. You don't have a paper trail for that. So it's a matter of piecing things together to get a better understanding and coming to some sort of management agreement, which is the phase that we're in now, is we have to develop a management agreement so that we can start fresh, kind of.
And both entities need to work on that management agreement.
Yes.
I was directed, the 2 action items after the workshop was I signed the temporary extension for the agreement, because that's what we've been doing since February. We have not brought to the table a new management agreement, because at that time they were interested in buying. They felt that they needed to buy, and we got it appraised. We did all that, and then we got this big fat red light, no. And like I said, I jaw dropped. I was like, all this work, really? Because we couldn't, with that, they were not going to approve the appraisal that we actually had. And not only did they approve it, but TRD approves it, Board of Finance approves it, and they were not going to approve it because it was 4.4 million. And in our audit, for years, I might add, we have the hospitals, it's in our audit saying that it's our money and assets. So imagine how we felt. We were going to sell it for 4.4 because we were like, yes, this is a fantastic idea. Great, you can take care of the hospital, you're good at it, we can take care. So that's what we're working on behind the scenes. But right now, our biggest goal is to continue working with the hospital and allowing the hospital to run the way they know how it needs to be run. Not us. We don't know how it needs to be run. So the questions have come up, like procurement. Are all the employees in the hospital government employees? No. There's, not only do we have to learn about statutes and bills and regulations, there's also exceptions, because this has happened in other areas. So we have to adhere to procurement standards, and it's a nightmare sometimes, right?
Right.
They don't. Because can you imagine what the county would have to do if we had to literally procure from pens to a huge MRI machine? I'm just, I'm no hospital, but can you imagine? We can't. So we're weeding all that out. So the commission have directed me to, and our legal team, to continue talks with the hospital's legal team to have a healthy, strong management agreement. That doesn't mean that in the future we might find more information. It is amazing how much information we do not have, and it's all here, and a handshake. It is not funny, and it's very frustrating when we're trying to find facts out and we go back and we have nothing. But Mr. Rogers said this. We can't do this anymore. We've got to continue to do this correctly, so in 20 years, 30 years, when we're all not here, they know what happened today. Because we want to work with them, but the commission are not interested in selling at this time. And so that was the big sort of understanding. And the reason why is we're not getting approved for our appraisal. And so the auditors are going to scream and yell. Does that mean that we'd like to look into it further? I would, and I think we will. We need to come up with some kind of, but right now, we need to work together to continue having a strong hospital. And the county is not going to be running it. And the county is not going to puff up their chest like they've done before, walk in there and threaten to take the money. That is not going to happen. Never. I mean, we put the wording in an agreement, and it can be worked out. When you look at the history and you hear the history on paper, read it, there's been times when the word component unit comes up, and that is the key. Component unit is a government financial auditing word that states that the government entity owns and operates, shall operate property that is an entity, whether it's a 501c or anything like that. There are other things that we're going to learn. I know it because we learn on a daily basis. But right now, that word component unit, we have to adhere to. We've got to know what that is. And right now, the commission have directed me to do a strong, healthy management agreement so we can have a good, healthy hospital with the people that are there. They know what they're doing. I don't. And it's a huge amount of money that has been put into our audit. That is the problem for years. And I'm talking years. The audit it is actually, because of the word component unit, all their financials come into our audit. And you're like, well, how can I see that? Go on the website, the state auditor's website. They have every single audit from years. And you can pull up the hospital's audit, and you can pull up ours. The hospital is a component unit of the county, so that their audit comes into play. So if you look on the back page with the, you can actually see the full budget amount if you look at the history, and you look at the bottom right, and it says like 14 million or something. That's our operating with the general fund and other funds that we utilize to operate throughout the year. That's with every fund. General fund's at top, then road, I think, and then it goes down. We also have the assets within the hospital. So the cash balances and the assets within the rule that we right now are going by, because that's all we really have, is saying that we actually have that too. That doesn't mean that we have the right as a county to spend it. No, absolutely not. They have to hire. They have to do all the operating. They are a group, a 501c, that runs the hospital with an agreement throughout the county. So I just wanted to make sure that you people can hear this. That money goes back into the hospital. not county, not anything else, not if we have a new commissioner and wants to have, I don't know, a brand new airport. We can't use that money. It has to stay in the hospital. So we're learning all this, and I think there's been a lot of misunderstandings and not knowing what's going on.
Hi, good morning, thank you. Thank you for the budget report. I was wondering on the indigent line item, looks like we're in the red there. Could you share what
Yeah.
happened there?
We're actually not in the red there. It was red at that time, and we do budget adjustments. So that, it comes in increments because it's a GRT increment, and that increment has to go into indigent fund. And the indigent fund is operated by an ordinance, and an ordinance is law by the commission. And this ordinance states that we can use that money for inmate care. We also use that money for individuals throughout the county that are needing assistance to help for burials. We actually do quite a few of those on an annual basis. And also hospital bills, like medical bills for a family. It's an application process, and all of them have to go through the application. But that money is a GRT, a gross receipt tax, that's incremented to be used for such things as in the ordinance. If you want to read the ordinances, go on the website. That's what we're trying to clean up, but that one is a very old one that we will be working on. Is that?
So the county owns the land and the building, correct? And
Mhm.
when you say assets, do you mean the furniture in the building? And so who actually owns the hospital services?
That's the thing, that's what we're learning. So a component unit means in finances, not legal, remember. There's always these different opinions that we're going to try and sieve out. But right now as a commission, we want to have a proper hospital, and we need to make sure that they can run. So right now, the understanding, and it's been discussed, by the way, quite a few times in the past. From 1993, I have a history of every year, and it has the word component unit 11 times. So this has happened, but everybody's just said, ugh, don't want to deal with this, let's just brush it under the rug. Let someone else deal with it. But you know what? We can't do that anymore. So yes, right now we have to, and this is what they had to do in the state order, had to tell me like 20 times. I didn't get it. They're like, Kate, that's the counties. I'm like, no way, that's not the counties. Yeah, it is. And so I was like, I don't quite, and then, so right now they're stating, because that money is in our audit, right, and we get findings through that, we own the cash and the actual everything within. Is that what we wanted to hear? No. Do you think the commission really wanted to hear this? No. It was really a blow because we work really hard and work really well with the hospital. When we still are. We're still having monthly meetings. We still hash things out. And we still will be doing this because we are learning on a basis. But right now, as it stands, we needed to make some decisions because in the component unit by law, the component unit, i.e. the hospital at this time, has to use the same auditor as the government entity. So we had to get contracts signed up so we can actually get their audit done on time. Because if you remember, the finding was multiple years because we never got our audit in on time. And one of the reasons was the hospital never got their audit in on time. So we're trying to assist, but make sure that we, adhere to everything. That doesn't mean it's going to change. Look how much stuff we've learned this year. We just need to keep going. We need to plug along, and we also need to work together. And the legal team, they're very, very strong, very good. They work very, very well together. I've been in meetings with both of them, and I have so much confidence that we're going to have a healthy contract management agreement. And I think a lot of this is going to be settled down. I want to just reassure again, we are not going to puff up our chests, go in there and say it's the counties. No. That's not what is best for our community. And we know that has not worked. So why do something that they've already tried? Let's work together, figure it out, learn on a daily basis. Whether we like it or not, we still have to deal with it. It's like a teenager, right? And we all have to, do I like to hear this? Do I like to tell the commission, hey, by the way, we can't sell? Well, why? Well, this. And it was, So if you imagine the 14 million on our operating, imagine another 40 million. Can you imagine how I felt? I don't know, I was like jaw dropped. I was like, no, I can't run a hospital. I was thinking all the things that you were thinking. I was thinking procurement, I was thinking hiring, I was thinking, oh my God, no. But we sieved it all out. We're confident right now that we need a strong management agreement for people that know how to manage a hospital. No, think about it. Detention, we couldn't run a detention center. How the are we gonna run a hospital? Right? Have you got any questions? Have I talked too long? I have, I'm sorry.
That's
What
great.
time is it? No questions?
8:28.
Yeah, you've probably been reading about what's happening in Gallup with RMCH and the problems with their management.
Is this the hospital?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't been
Rehoboth,
reading it, I'm sorry.
McKinley, yes.
And no levies and those kinds of problems, where the county is somewhat detached until the bitter end and stuff. So I guess I wonder if that has anything to do with your working with this.
It doesn't have anything to do with what we do. We take care of this county and what's best for our county. But that's really an interesting statement because I also know that they've had issues as well with the word component unit. So keep an eye on that. I will keep an eye on that too because I had a meeting up there with that. And that's why we went to the state auditor because we heard from McKinney, oh, it's easy. Just go to the state auditor and ask for a waiver. So that's what we did. And no, that doesn't work that way. So it might, I'm not sure. I haven't read, but I will. I appreciate you letting me know. There's a lot of, this is not us, this is the whole nation is having this issue. And the state's having this issue, so let's just work
I think
together.
especially the smaller hospitals are having trouble keeping afloat because of changes in Medicaid and
So-
different insurance billing at the state and federal level. So I think that's the issue with Rehoboth. They're struggling financially.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Rehoboth is corruption of the leadership, and the leaders kind of using money for their own interests.
So in 2013, a statute was passed for a safety net care pool for rural hospitals such as this. And I think there's 12 in the state, something like that. And this, at that time, I was like, no way, another unfunded increment that we're going to have to give back to the state, and then they divvy it up and give it to the rural areas. And at that point, I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Catron County doesn't even have a hospital. Why are we, as people, paying taxes, and then they're sending it to other hospitals? That's my mental, but now it's all changed because they've done it for all this time and it's working. So let's just say in 2014, this hospital, if they report it, they receive the money back that they didn't get from poverty or indigent or anything. So all the bills that do not get paid, they get paid back by the safety net care pool. Now remember that because 14 and 15, they didn't receive anything. The reporting was not there. They did not report. Don't know why. Doesn't really matter because we're going forward. This year, they have a new finance person that I've been working with, and they reported, and they're receiving 4.5 million this year. So it's working. And the letter states from the state, HSD, that this safety net care pool is working. The money is being, every hospital, rural hospital, is receiving every penny that they have not received from bills that have not been paid. So that's how they're continuing to profit. The hospital here has not been doing well for 2 years. This year, though, I haven't seen their audit because it hasn't been released yet, but I'm hearing that it was actually quite a good year, and they have good promise for this year too, projections. So now I'm going to stop talking. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Let me go over a few highlights for the city, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chief Chavez to give you a few highlights. Construction on the Legacy Trail should begin any day. We keep saying that for 5 years now, I think, but it was under another delay because some paperwork was not signed at the state level, and I just got notice yesterday that all the agreements are in place. So any day now, I think the contractor is TLC, will be working on that Legacy Trail. So you'll be seeing some work there. 2nd Street is well underway. The latest word I have now is that 2nd Street should be done around October. I'm not going to hold my breath because you know how construction goes. It seems like it always takes longer, but they definitely are gearing to try to get it done before winter. First Street was supposed to start in July, and we only got one bid in. Proposals went out. We got one bid in, and it was very high. It was about $2 million over what we anticipated. We've been talking to others in our region, and it seems like construction projects right now, the cost has really been escalated over this last period, and I'm not sure.
Is it material, you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure why the increase, but it seems like the other projects that got state capital outlay, they're seeing a big increase too. So our council voted to put it back out for bid and see if we could get a few more bids, see if we could get something more reasonable so that we could get more accomplished with the dollars we have. Internet sales tax, the state a while back created a law where the internet sales, when you buy something on the internet, the GRT or the gross receipts tax will go to the state. We didn't have that before. We weren't collecting any gross receipts on that, so that hurts our state and our community. Now the state is going to be allocating that money back out to communities. So here real soon, each community, and I think they're not basing it on the sales that we're doing on the internet, but they're basing it on population size. So that'll be really helpful. I'm not sure what that'll, dollar amount will be, but it'll be good because as we know, more and more people are buying things on Amazon and online. And the city relies very heavily on when you buy something at the store, we collect gross receipts off of every sales, and then that's what helps us with our funding. Volunteer efforts. Beth was at the same meeting. We were at a meeting actually with the hospital and several other community groups talking about creating what we've talked about, a sobering center or some kind of shelter for people who are transients or inebriate and ending up in the ER. And the problem we're having right now is we don't have an organization that's willing to step up and be the facilitator of that. Typically, government entities do not run programs like that. It's typically a nonprofit like Presbyterian Medical Services does the one in Farmington, church groups, various nonprofits that start up to help the homeless, the poor.
Hospitals can too.
Yes, hospitals could too. Because especially like our hospital is a nonprofit. And
Right,
so,
they could do it. Yeah.
so that's kind of what the holdup is right now. But I really, in looking at it, I think nationwide, but I see it in our community, we're really having issues with volunteerism. And so we have very few volunteers, and the same volunteers are the ones that are over and over doing the charity work in our community. And so I would like for us all to consider how can we as a community pull together and really improve volunteerism, and whether it's through youth programs or services. We used to have, years ago when I first came back to Grants after going to college, we had a Lions Club, we had a Kiwanis Club, and now out of those charity organizations, I think Rotary is one of the only ones that's left. We do have Knights of Columbus, there's a few, but how can we generate more volunteerism? And I know the Quadrathlon, who relies heavily on volunteers, is really struggling to keep the quad going because of lack of volunteers. And they've done a wonderful job over the years. So how do we bring in the younger generation and get more volunteers, or tap into our seniors who are retired and maybe have a little extra time? So let's all be thinking how that might come about. Beth?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, so at that meeting we brought up this former ministerial alliance, and the pastor joked, oh, you mean when we got together for lunch every week? I'm like, well, okay, so maybe that happened. But that was 20 years ago. Many of us belong to different churches, and I know there's a good half dozen churches that are doing some really important work in the area, but the left hand doesn't always know what the right hand's doing. we had the Way of the Truth and the Life right up here, didn't know that PNS was right across the way and could help treat the heroin addicts. But anyway, so if you're part of a congregation, please talk with your pastor. It doesn't mean your church needs to do more, the pastor needs to do more, but we're not working together.
Right, so more coordination. I think there's a lot that we could do as a community if we really pull together. We've had some initiatives to put in more lights in our community. We've just ordered 6 new lights, and 4 of them are going to be going off of Roosevelt Avenue down on the end close to where the mobile home parks are. It's very dark there, and we've had a lot of complaints, so we're putting 4 in there. They're going to be solar lights because we were told by Continental Divide that that area would be really expensive to run power lines because they're underground. And so we went with solar options, so we'll see how those work. The other 2 are going to be going at Mesa Park. And I know several of our council are interested in trying to light up Mesa Park a little bit better for activities and people walking their pets and stuff in that park. I have a couple of staff that are researching panhandling laws for me. One of our councilmen said he was very concerned about people panhandling at the corner of Walmart, and a lot of people feel scared and feel like it's unsafe. So in the last probably 5 years, there's a lot of federal laws and a lot of initiative to not put a stop to panhandling because it's believed that we're infringing on people's First Amendment rights and that we're targeting the poor. And so we're kind of researching what can we do to make it safer. How can we set some limits, you know, whether it's time limits of when people can be there or whether it's you have to get permitted through the city and have a background check. So we're looking at how we can deal with that and not infringe on anybody's rights. And then we have online payments, and the last year we switched to a new software program that's working very good. But with that program, there was $1, I believe it's about $1.25 fee if you pay online. A lot of the residents, it appears, are not willing to pay that, and so our online payments have really decreased. So this week we talked with our staff, and I wrote a letter to the company and said that the city would cover those fees. And because we want payments to be convenient for people, if you're at work and you need to make a payment, you can do it online or from your home. And then it also helps our staff because it cuts down the traffic coming to City Hall and trying to process payments. So pretty soon you'll see that for those of you that may have been concerned about the $1.25 surcharge from the company, that we will be paying that surcharge.
Laura, can I add something to
Yes.
that? That is absolutely true. There's these companies and they're charging, and it's not fair. I had a meeting last year with HSD and some of the representatives requesting, so we have a state price agreement contract, and you can actually go in and look and see what has been already approved, like vendors, like contractors or painters or anything that they've already been approved by the state. Well, there are no services for payment online, but they are actually going for bid this year for vendors to apply to be on the state price agreement without any charges. So it might change because it's not fair. But I just want to let you know that they are very aware of it. But there's no contractor or vendor that is on the state price agreement as of yet. And that's why they have to go out and look and see if anybody's willing to do it. So you never know.
And then I'm going to let Chief Chavez give us a little bit of an update on what's happening with his department.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
I had a quick question
Uh-huh.
for the city. What's happening with the neon park? Because I understand that a private party purchased one of the signs off of Santa Fe Avenue.
Yes. We have a committee that's working on it. We're in the process right now of trying to purchase the Roaring 20s sign. I know we'd like to purchase all of the neon signs in town. We don't have the funding to do that right now. We're discussing where the best location for a neon park would be. Some on the committee think it would be better to have them spread out along Santa Fe Avenue like they historically were and have people drive, and then there's others that think we should buy a piece of land on Santa Fe Avenue and have them all in one location where people could pull in and park and get out and look at them, and it's a little safer than parking on the side of the road. We got a appraisal on a piece of land that's down on the west end of town that's close to Handy Andy, and that piece of property is running about $90,000. So for this year's budget, I think everybody's aware, we cut several of our fluffy items out so that we could work on First and Second Street. Most of our tax dollars this year are going to those two projects. So buying the property got put on hold, but we are going to go ahead and purchase the Roaring Twenties sign if the seller is agreeable. And they're looking at selling it, we were told, at $5,000. So that's a really reasonable price. I'm sure it's worth quite a bit. And so, you know, those are private signs, and if we want them, we have to purchase them, and then the seller has to be willing to sell them to us. Yeah.
Laura, are there any plans to replace the 2 new trees that are dead on Mount Taylor Avenue?
No, there's not right now. So, but we could. I was happy. I don't know, we planted quite a few and only 2 of them looked like they didn't make it. So that's pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. So I haven't had any plans, but we can look at that. Yeah. Okay. You wanna go ahead?
Hello, my name is Steve Chavis. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Grants. I've been here now since June 18th of last year. When I came in, one of the things that I wanted to happen for the City of Grants Police Department was that we build a department of accountability to the citizens. So the drive I've been pushing towards for the last year has been a community-oriented policing program, so that there's transparency about what the PD is doing. So if you feel slighted by an officer, and I mean this, Lieutenant Chavez is my internal affairs guy. Lieutenant Chavez, of any complaint that comes in to me, you, or anybody else, how many of them do we look into?
All
Right.
everyone.
So we sweep nothing under the carpet, because accountability, you as citizens in our city, you deserve, number one, first and foremost, you deserve a police department that is above board. You may not like that we're arresting your husband or citing you, but you deserve a certain service. And what I mean by that is you deserve to feel secure by the people that are out protecting you at night and during the day. So there's an accountability, and we've fostered that within the department. It wasn't always there, I have to say, but it is there now. And going into the future, we will always have that. Secondly, I'll tell you, with the community-oriented policing, because we're a small department with a lot of calls for service. What I mean by calls for service, that means I'll tell you this, we all 3 worked for Milan PD and now the City of Grants. Lieutenant Chavez and I worked for Cibola County Sheriff, and we worked for the Pueblo of Laguna. And I can tell you this without lying, that our calls for service on a daily basis equal to more than Milan PD, Cibola County Sheriff, Acoma PD, and even into some of Laguna Pueblo. So combined daily. Okay, what does that mean? So we're up until this budget year, we had 18 guys fully staffed with me. Now the city has graciously granted us to get 2 more, which we've hired, just 2 certified officers. But our numbers are such that, what I mean by 20 certified, including myself, those 3 PDs, I'm not going to count Laguna, but those 3 PDs, Cibola, Milan, and Acoma, they employ 34 officers altogether. for answering and covering the same amount of calls we cover every day. So what am I saying? We are working diligently to curb a lot of the crime and some of the things. One of the worst things that as a citizen of the city of Grants or any community is to feel not safe. Laura brought it up, about, people are saying they don't feel safe walking around the corner right there by Walmart, and they're looking into that. One of the things I want to start doing, I'll tell you, is if they get that going, boom, we can start working towards that. Not to violate their rights, but see, the thing is when people become more aggressive or there's things that are happening, people are walking the streets supposedly innocently. Like, I know if you're walking down the street, exercising, but you can tell the guy that's walking down the street peeking in cars. And so when we only have 2 officers on the streets, believe me, running lights and siren, I don't care if you're from one end of the town to the other, it takes you several minutes running lights and siren, much less cruising. So we're really working diligently to bring these things and mitigate a lot of the concerns. One of the ways we're doing that is what I call my broken windows theory, and what I'm trying to do is, we've had a few homicides this year, and but those things we all know that's going to happen. It's tragic. It's horrible. But the things that, if you think about it, the things that make you feel insecure is the drug house that is down the street. The teenagers that are always hanging around right across the street, and they're partying, and they're smoking pot. And its perception is that they can get away with it with impunity. Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. Our patrol program, Lieutenant Jeff Mottes is over there. We see people that we know are frequent flyers, okay? And if they break any law, and I mean any law, we get them. The concern is we don't want to prosecute poverty. But you know what? Guess what? I'll tell you, I came from a poor family. We were on commodities. We lived low income. I had a dirt floor, okay? Guess what? We weren't thieves. And we weren't robbers, and we weren't all these things. So for people to equate poverty with theft and larceny and drugs, no, we have to show people that you may be poor, but there's going to be a certain way to live within our city. And so Lieutenant Mottes and his crew on the patrol side is diligent in working on this and finding these guys that you stop him and he's got a suspended license, and the car's expired, boom, citations. No warnings, because especially frequent flyer. Like I'm saying, and we give warnings every day. Every day. People may say it's profiling. It ain't profiling. Profiling is, there's that guy with a goatee back there, and we know guys with goatees all do drugs. Okay? That's not what we're doing. What I'm saying is, we know this person right here is a criminal. Not you,
There's
brother.
2 of them.
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
What we're doing, though, is if we know this guy has been in jail and he's continuing to be that guy that's constantly, we don't make excuse like, well, it's only a this citation, we'll get him on something big. No, we can't wait for that, because by the time it gets big, it's already too late. So we need to get him now. We need to get him now. I'll tell you, we had a guy on the 600 block of Jefferson was constantly complaining about neighbors when I first got here. These guys are doing drugs, these guys are this or that, and he's mad and he's frustrated. So I brought it to a couple officers, and immediately, he's crazy. He's crazy, he's always complaining. He's complained for years. So what we did is we started paying special attention to this other house. Special attention, not harassing, but I talked with Mr. Windhorse and I said, are there any code violations? He goes, not really, but I could take a look. Because that's one thing, Mr. Windhorse, the code enforcement guy, he now has a police radio, and he has a speed dial to both my lieutenants. Because if he has anything that he says, I need to go talk to these people, and they're squatting in a house with no lights, no gas, no water, and there's feces everywhere, but we're going to go help him, and we're going to make sure that person Those people are not squatting in private property because we're going to work at it. Because you know what? I don't know how many homeowners are here. I own a home here. Well, me and the bank, but I own a home here. So I don't want my property values to come down because there's people squatting next door. Nobody here would want that. So I promise you that we are working diligently to go forward with this, not just to answer calls, not just to chase calls, but we have a plan. I've discussed it with the city council, with my manager, and I had to come to a realization that budget is a big deal because I can't hire 13 more guys, you know what I mean? I need them, but I can't. So no, I'm just kidding, but my point is I get it. Within the confines of what the city can do, we all want this to go in a certain way. They all have a vision for the city about what can we do for the next 20 years to make Grants a place that's more hospitable, so people will invest, so people want to move here and live here. And so that's what we are doing, our part on the criminal side. Pushes we're doing is like narcotics. We've got there's 2 new officers. One's a school resource officer. We're hoping we can hire another resource officer in the near future for Los Alamitos. Boy, I'll tell you what, the schools take up a lot of patrol time. And it's just because the dynamics could change. When I was a kid, we used to get whooped by the teachers. So, you behave or you go home, and now mom and dad are going to whoop you too. Anyway, that was in my life, but maybe not yours. So let me just say this. When I first came here, and I came here with this thought, Hillary Clinton said it about raising kids, and I don't really know if I agree with that. It takes a village, okay? But in community-oriented policing, it truly does. Laura was talking about volunteerism and how it's went down. But you know what? Really and truly, you as the citizens of Grants can expect of your department to be your department. Not to harass you, not to give you a hard time when you're calling us for service, not to be rude and crude. You can expect us to be professional and if we can't arrest your son because he's being mean to you, or your husband, unless he's committed a crime, because there are laws. They've talked about laws this morning. There are laws that regulate us. The constitutionality of what we do is very important. But you deserve a certain service from us, and we are diligently working towards that. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Could you give us your guess about how safe Grants is? I mean, would your wife or your daughter feel safe walking out at night for a mile or so in Grants? I just don't know.
Well, I believe the city of Grants is very safe. We haven't, Lieutenant Mares? Yes. Have we had any, we haven't had any muggings or anything like that, right? No. Usually if we have an assault, it's people that know each other. So we have drunken assaults, but it's people that know each other, they're partying together, and we have that. I'm not sure that since I've been here we've had a woman or somebody accosted while they're out walking. That's not the case. But I get where you're coming from, because is it uncomfortable to go down to the Riverwalk for a stroll and you smell marijuana, or there's a bunch of young kids out? And those are because it's a public park, we'd have to get an ordinance that says no whatever after these out, whatever. But those are things that we can work towards. But yeah, no, is the city of Grants safe? I would say the city of Grants is safe, but I am looking to get it more safe, because I'll tell you where we're at. In this generation of methamphetamine and heroin, heroin's come back. Heroin was big in the 70s and stuff, but man, it is huge now. And methamphetamine is huge, and when people are on meth, I'll tell you this, it steals their soul, because they will steal from their mama, they will rob their brother. It's crazy. It's a horrible, horrible drug. And so with that problem that we have, like everybody else in America, I'll tell you the truth, we have a lot of property crime type larceny stuff. So people will walk, and that's what we're out sometimes 3 in the morning, come out and just cruise the streets. real slow. And we know that the patrol guys are out there, we do it too, and we come out looking for the guys walking and then stop them. We've gotten how many arrests like that? Several. And they're up to no good. They're carrying burglary tools. They're up to no good, and we get them.
So, can I have a question? This is,
I'm just answering questions for the citizens. No, I'm just kidding.
so, would you say that, and I'm really honestly asking this, outside of the between 11 and 5 in the morning, is it beneficial to have officers out at that time?
Oh man, yes,
Yeah?
by all means,
Okay.
by all means. Because I'll tell you this, I see citizens, and when I say citizens, I mean people that are us here, not the citizens that are up to no good. I see citizens out walking kind of late, you know, sometimes maybe up to about 8:30 or so, but pretty much they all go home, and by 9 o'clock and then you have different folks begin to come out. Then you have the nighttime folks come out, and while they don't do crime every night, they're all partying, they're all doing drugs, and whatever. I'm not saying every one of them is going out to rob you, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying though is they are out. And so therefore, that's when my guys need to be out. In my opinion, every police agency needs to be 24/7, because
What?
every
Say that again.
every police agency needs to be 24/7 in my estimation, because the citizens of our country deserve more than lip service when it comes to enforcement. Present company excluded, politicians have a great way of saying, we are working towards getting a better community. Well, it's time that we all put up or shut up. And so the only way to do that is by us being out and actually doing those things. And it happens in small increments, but it does happen. So that my story about Jefferson, those people that we were dealing with, it's not that we wanted them to move, we wanted them to change their way. But guess what? They moved. There was a family on the 800 block of Kingman, same thing. They moved. And so we're just telling, and I told the lady, it was her sons that were the problem. I said, we're not looking for you to move. I don't want to harass you. I'm talking to you, need to make sure that your juvenile sons are doing what they need to do, because if not, we are going to address that issue. And she says, well, it's okay because we're moving out now. Okay.
I got two different questions. First off, when I was growing up, there was a curfew for teenagers. Is there still one enforced?
I don't think there's a curfew now.
No, that's another one of those that the ACLU said we're violating the constitutional rights of minors, and I'm like, well, they can't even vote. Why should they? And I think we should crack down. That was another one when I first came on. I wanted to make sure we were enforcing, and I was told that there's been cases in Albuquerque where the parents of those kids that were suing the city because it violates their rights, and the ACLU was protecting that. So that's another one. I think that's a lot of our issue. There's mid-school kids that I think anybody that's mid-school, once it's dark, you can play on your street in front of your house, but you should not be wandering town.
And of course, it does start at home.
Yes,
Parents keep them home.
it does.
And so, thinking about that, okay, so the problem is, a lot of us here have kids, and we make sure our kids are doing what they need to do. But there are folks that really, either they don't or they can't control. And I'm serious. How many parents and grandparents do you guys know that they just cannot control this little turd? And that's it. And so unfortunately, until they become communicative with us about, hey, this is what's happening, then, because I'll tell you, we're on it. But yeah, there's no curfew, but we are out. Our guys are really trying to make an effort, and we see you out causing problems. If you cause any problems, in the Pueblo of Laguna, they had a great law. It was called in public intox, and there was another one, creating, maintaining a public nuisance. And we're going to present that to the council for consideration, just because if you're out and you're causing any little problem, and people are complaining, like these teenagers are out across the street and they're causing problems, we don't have to go over there and give you a break. Hey guys, keep it down. That means we can go over there and we don't have to arrest you, Mr. Juvenile. We'll walk over to your house, knock on the door. Mom and dad or grandma comes outside and we say, here's a citation because of this. Not that we're trying to jack them up, but I'll tell you what, that old adage that crap rolls downhill, that's what we're looking for. If mom and dad are having struggles with that kid, if not, we'll get them into a treatment center or juvenile detention. And we,
The second question, there's a couple that have been in the business area on Santa Fe and High Street, all that area. They ride on bikes. Okay, one is a male, dirty, blonde, scraggly hair, white guy, and the other one, I'm not sure ethnicity, the woman is, I don't know if she's native, Spanish, or African American. But I know they have had broken into a lot of several businesses. I know it's probably the court system. I'm not sure if you guys have even arrested them or anything, but they do ride along on bikes, and they have been seen and captured on surveillance by businesses breaking in. Now I've been seeing them coming up Roosevelt. I live off of Roosevelt, so it's like, I don't want them in my neighborhood. Do you know who I am talking about?
LT,
I do.
you guys have arrested him, right?
I think I did.
Several times.
Yeah, Dennis, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And exactly. So we're constantly, it's just, and so here's where, it's not that we want to harass them, but now we know, there's two kinds of people, maybe three in the world. There's yes people, there's maybe people, and then there's no people. They're obviously no people. I'm not going to do what you say, and I'm not going to follow the law. Well, guess what? Here's where we come in. And so that's it. We're not here to harass the yes people and whatever. We're here to protect the people that are constantly trying to do the right thing. So yes, no, we're on that. We're on that, and we're not on them harassing, but we are on that, on them.
So Cindy, is your church working with them somehow? No?
I am,
Okay.
no.
You are, okay. Because you mentioned the
I know
name, I thought,
personally.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen them with stuff in their little wagon that looks kind of like
yeah. Well,
copper and stuff, copper wire and stuff like
Yeah,
that. It's like,
yes.
okay, where are you guys getting all of that at?
I've known the
I
young
don't
man since he was probably in second grade when
know
I
he's
was in the
business,
school.
so.
Yeah.
So,
tough
okay, so,
thing.
but let's do, for instance, say we do stop them today, and we see the wagon with the medals.
Yeah, I don't know where they get
No,
it,
I'm just
so
saying,
I
but,
don't ask.
so here's what we could do. We can go up to them, talk to them. We know it's these two people. We can run what we call a code 8, which is a warrant check. They come back clean, no warrants, okay? There's nothing on them that indicates they're not being disorderly, they're off the roadway. There's nothing on them that indicates that medal came from a criminal activity.
Even if they were on surveillance?
Oh, no, if you can say, I got him on surveillance, leaving my place with stolen metal, yeah, well, of course, we're gonna find him and arrest him. No, what I'm talking about, casual encounters. When we have a consensual encounter with somebody, see, by law, I can't walk up to you on the street and say, I want to see your license and your information. Who are you? I can't do that. I can't stop any one of you by law. That's the Constitution. Okay? Now, what the law does say is if I have reasonable suspicion that you're doing criminal activity, and that's all I need is reasonable suspicion. And now I can stop you and find out what you're doing. And so that's what we do. I can stop you and talk to you, and if you start acting kind of whatever, and we go from there, and we play off that. Police officers are the best judges of reading humans. Oh man.
Teachers are.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. Kids, yeah, for sure.
Teachers are.
How many people
Yeah.
are on the force there, how many police officers do you have?
20 now. 20.
We need more?
Oh yeah. Yeah. For our
Like
calls,
how many?
I would say to be very comfortable, we need 28.
More? Oh, so you
No,
like
no,
eight-
no,
eight to
28.
10 more?
Yeah. I would say now. She's looking like.
Are you getting paid enough?
No, but my point is this though, okay? I realize that there's always budget constraints. And I told her when they hired me, I'm gonna prove that we are gonna be doing the job. I'm not gonna ask you for a whole lot until you start saying, okay, his direction, I see what's going on. And then at some time, I hope the council will see when I present the strategies of what's going on. And if there is money for that, because you got to realize, we don't have a lot of industry here. I realize that our tax base isn't going up. So in order for it to go up, and this is my estimation, and I'm just coming just strictly as a citizen, we need to get more jobs, which means we need to get some of these closed businesses on Santa Fe back open. We need to get some big industry here, or something that will give more jobs, so that we can entice people, investors. Look at Los Lunas, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when they brought in the distribution center. And now you go over there in Los Lunas, and holy cow, that little town has blossomed into this thriving little thing here. Whereas you go south, in the south end of the county, Belen is just like us. It's just like us. They're struggling. Now, I think we can get past that and entice people, and I'm going to do my part. And I know Laura and Manuel, I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman, the councilman is doing their part to try to fix roads and increase and do this stuff. But unfortunately, it takes time because it's not an overnight thing. Yes, ma'am.
What are your biggest challenges of doing your job?
My
Please
biggest
tell me.
challenges. Oh man.
City manager, no.
No.
Hey, Chief, can I help you with that?
Yes, sir.
I think it's our judges.
Well,
Yeah.
so right, that's huge because, like you brought up these folks that are walking around, and you turned them in, they've been arrested, but yes, sir, thank you for that. And I'm not blaming any particular judge. It's just they look at property crime, and I was a detective for 17 of my 27 years as a cop. They look at property crime like, well, okay, we're going to give you a break, okay, and we're going to give you, and they're more prone to give probation. But see, they don't think about that. The items they stole from you that cost you $10,000 to buy or whatever, they're selling to a fence for $400, $500, and so but that's cost you. That's like something that's huge to you. So to me, theft is the most, it's a horrible violation. And I investigated child sexual abuses and rapes and murders. That was mostly what I did. But my point is theft and stuff that we deal with, the judges don't seem to be as concerned about giving out high time for it.
So according to the judges, they're bound by the laws, and so the laws stipulate how much punishment they can give to somebody that creates different crimes. So according to them, it's the laws. But knowing that, then we need to work with our legislators and create laws that we feel like will serve us better. So it may be the laws that are the issue, not necessarily the judges. I don't sit in court every day or get to see what they deal with, but according to them, they're bound by laws and they can only do so much.
Well, that catch and release needs to go away.
And that's not going to go away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what he's talking about it's the law. The
Right.
catch and release thing is really just bad for
In
us
order
right
to
now.
change the law, the city does not have our own lobbyists, do we?
We don't. We work with the Council of Governments, and they take somebody up there that lobbies, but it's more for capital money. It's not for laws so much. But we have, all of us, I think, have the availability of close relationship with our local representatives. And so as we hear about laws, I know the Sheriff's Department was really active in the gun laws this last year. So we have access to our legislators and can really communicate to them if we think there's issues and things they should be focusing on, and get them to sponsor some things that we think need to be changed. And they're very receptive to our local needs. So I see a big group here For the Kids. I'm guessing you have something you wanted to talk with me about. Would you like to?
So we're from Western New Mexico Correctional Facility, and every year we do a public safety day. And so this year we're planning our 6th annual public safety day, and it's going to be at Maribel Park in Milan. So this year we're teaming up with For the Kids Athletics. So we're going to have half of the field is going to be football games for the kids going on, and then the other half is going to be public safety events going on. So we usually have law enforcement out. I have flyers here if anybody's interested in some flyers. So yeah, we're just here to let everybody know you're all invited. We reached out to all the departments, and so we
Great.
just wanted to talk a little bit.
For the Kids program is a wonderful young group of volunteers, which, you know, we really need to culture our younger generation volunteering. And so I really commend you on your work in our community with our youth groups and programs. Thank you. Okay, any other questions, things
I
you?
have one for
Yes.
the chief.
Yes, sir.
Is there no longer a noise ordinance in Grants?
There is. Is it after 10, LT? What's that? 11, sir.
When I was a kid, my friend got in trouble for having a glass pack on his
Right.
car. Nowadays, I mean, at night, and I just wondered, is that being enforced at all?
It is, but it needs to be beefed up. I had a citizen complain. He had a neighbor who was a teenager who frequently kept them up at all hours, and the way the noise ordinance worked, there wasn't a lot we could do. So I have it in my pile of a million things I need to do, but we need to beef ours up. I don't think it serves us well.
And I mean, and a lot of automobiles at night, you know, you're asleep and all of a sudden, and then
Thank you.
the rap music.
Yeah, yes. So, you know, and I didn't realize how many people fight with their neighbors until I was a city manager, but they all bring it to me. And so, yeah, we have an issue, and I think it's something we can work on and make better.
Someone brought up a question to me about the dark tinted windows. And we see a lot of those dark tinted windows in Grants where you cannot see the person inside a vehicle. Is there a law at all regarding that? I think years ago there may have been, but I don't know if there is today.
I thought there's a state law, isn't there?
There's actually a state statute that addresses that, and it's 15% is allowable by law, below 15%. Anything above, or well, they go below that road, I guess. 10%, 15%, so you can have 20% tint. Unfortunately, they make tints, the manufacturers got wise to that, and they make a tint that complies, but you still can't see in, it's reflective as well. We do have a meter at the PD, we can enforce that law, and we have seen a few come in, and I've actually personally stopped one per tint. The problem is that you have to have the meter on you, and you have to write that state statute on that, based on that.
Terry.
I just wanted to recognize the city, and I don't know if everybody sees that, but they've had the cleanup crew going all summer. And in particular, the Walmart corner is much better, and I think that kind of, it discourages those people, although that they've cleaned up all over the city, and then replacing the sidewalks on Lobo Canyon Road and the weed control. I just want to recognize the city. They did a great job all summer.
Thanks. Yeah, I decided this week that next summer, we may even start it now, I'm going to hire at least one person that just cuts weeds. And we're really not supposed to be on private property, but we just need to cut the weeds wherever they're at. I think that would make such a difference. I asked my street department and my maintenance crew have been busy, but they spent 2 days working on weeds, and they didn't get them all, but it made such a difference, and it looked so much better. So I thought, you know, I think it would be worth hiring somebody just for the summer months to just go through these empty alleyways along our roadsides and just cut the weeds down. And I think it would help with mosquitoes too.
No, I really appreciate how much cleaner the city is since you've taken over. When I'm
Thank
driving
you.
around, I think, wow, thanks to Laura, it's really so much better these days.
That's good to hear, because I still see all the trash and it drives me crazy. Yeah, so it's coming. It's coming. I think our parks look really nice right now. I would like to thank Jacobs. Our golf course is looking really good. Our poor golf staff, we put a lot of pressure on them to make it look nice, and it's looking really good right now. So thank you. Yes.
It's So we've been denied parks, who do we address that to?
So the way it works is the city recreation programs come first, and then we allow outside use, and we try to accommodate as many people as possible. After you guys first started your program and you were in City Hall Park, we noticed a lot of wear and tear on that grass, and that park is really not meant for like football practice, baseball practice. It just was getting too torn up. So we said we weren't going to do any of the parks because a lot of people use those parks for wedding receptions and events. So we want to keep the grass nice, but our sports fields are available. And I believe you guys did use San Jose Park this summer. Yeah. So I would just coordinate that with Joaquin. And, you know, the other thing I believe he might have offered you guys is to try to work under the rec department so that you had more priority in use of parks because you would be considered a city program.
So we play every Saturday, the rec department doesn't play every Saturday, we got denied Saturdays. Is there a reason?
So, but they do play, do you mean like for football on San Jose or?
Yes.
As far as I know, we've usually played most Saturdays. Now I know the schedule's a little different now, but I don't know how that would help you if it's only available some Saturdays. But we can sit down and look at that. You know, work with Joaquin, see when they're not using it. I know my granddaughter's playing flag football, and I just got the schedule, and some of the times, yeah, there's not games. Yes.
He says it's you, and then you say it's him, so we're not sure.
Yeah, I don't schedule the parks. And so the rec department and then Shannon at the code enforcement. So if certain events have to go through both, if it's a big group, so yours probably has to go through Shannon for all of the, make sure you have insurance and all of that at the code enforcement. But our programs will get first priority. Yeah, that's just.
We do work around, so we pick what's available and we still get denied. That's
yeah. Well, you use San Jose Park, so I don't know. I'm thinking they don't have their schedule ready yet, so maybe that's why he's not willing to give you, because I noticed there were a lot of gaps in the schedule I saw. I didn't look to see what days they were, but I'm thinking they're Saturdays, and it's for flag football, which I didn't even pay attention to where that's at. But yeah, you know, let's schedule a time and we can visit.
Although,
Okay.
do you want to tell them about what you guys are doing for our public safety day, what you're...
So for Public Safety Day, for the kids' athletics, we pick organization to donate to. So this year we picked ROTC. So we're going to do a salute to ROTC. Any funds that are raised after football games goes to our local Grants High School ROTC. One year we donated like $400 to them. So hopefully this year we can, you know, donate the same to them as well. So.
That's wonderful. Great.
They're also going to be having a mini academy for corrections. So the corrections department, we're all from Western. Our deputy warden, Vince Dehill. Our main strive this year is community involvement. So hopefully you guys will see some new faces within coffee with managers and other things of that nature. They're going to have a little academy for the kids. The dogs are going to be out. You know, they're going to kind of go through little obstacle course, get little mini certificates, things of that nature. So please put the word out to have the kids. We want to make sure they're all involved. Again, it is at Maribel Park. It is the 6th annual, so we want as much community involvement as we can. Just like you're saying, it starts at home, so please bring your kids and yourselves, and there'll be a lot of entities from Rama, Laguna, Acoma, emergency management, dispatch, just everybody from around, just to kind of do some activities. And then the football side there'll be a concession stand as well, so just something to do, get out, and hopefully we'll start it big and get the community a little bit more involved with these youth.
Great. Great. Thank you for volunteering. I know this is above and beyond your jobs to coordinate this stuff, so thank you. Any other topics? No? It's great to see such a good group today. Thank you. Thanks for your input. Appreciate it.